Alright, you legends, you want to know what we got today? 25 items from the 80s that Generation Z has never seen.
Game Boy.
And probably some things I've forgotten too.
It's in stereo.
Clap off,
Alright.
clap on, clap off, the clapper.
The 1980s were a unique time for technology and entertainment, filled with gadgets that have since become obsolete. From VCRs to Betamax tapes, these everyday items defined a generation. Can you imagine a time before streaming or digital downloads? Join us as we explore 25 everyday items from the 1980s that Gen Z has never seen.
Terrific! But suppose it's over 3 hours. Relax. Panasonic VHS tapes up to 4 hours of sports, movies, specials on one cassette.
In the 1980s, VCRs, video cassette recorders, became the main way people watched movies at home before DVDs and streaming services became popular.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I remember having a VCR, thankfully, from the moment I was born. I was a 1980 baby, and my first memories are from when I was 2, and I think my dad actually got his first one in, 1980. I think he got it from Hong Kong, and it was one of these beautiful chrome machines. I remember he must have spent a packet on it, because they were worth a fortune back then, and it was one of these high-tech ones that had short play and long play, which I think would get you extra recording footage at the expense of some quality, but you could still do that. Wonderful idea. Obviously with streaming services and stuff now, there isn't really a recording culture anymore, even though it's technically around. It's certainly a blast from the past. But yeah.
VCRs, introduced in the 1970s, let people record TV shows and watch movies rented or bought on VHS tapes. This new technology changed home entertainment, allowing viewers to watch their favorite content anytime.
It was really expensive back then.
VCRs used magnetic tape inside a plastic cassette to play and record video and audio. The most common format was VHS, which beat Betamax in the format battle. VCRs allowed users to play, rewind, fast forward, and record.
Yeah, I remember Betamax. I love how this narrator's also explaining it like a 5-year-old for any Generation Zers that might be interested in this stuff, because we take for granted that this current generation has actually no idea what this stuff is, you know what I mean? We're at an age now where some people have never even seen a VHS player. It's crazy. But Betamax, I mean, I barely even saw that in the mid-80s. By then, if you went to a video store, you'd be lucky if there was like a half a dozen leftover Betamax tapes left. I mean, yeah, I don't even remember that.
Over time, the tapes would wear out, affecting picture and sound quality. By the early 2000s, DVDs replaced VHS, and streaming services made physical media nearly obsolete.
Get those hybrid machines.
VCRs revolutionized home entertainment. But what device lets people take their favorite music on the go? Let's explore the Walkman.
Sony Walkman is a tiny stereo cassette player with truly incredible sound.
In the 1980s, Walkman became the popular portable cassette player that allowed people to listen to music wherever they went. Sony introduced the first model, the TPS L2 1979, changing how people enjoyed music. Before Walkmans, music was mostly listened to at home or in the car, but these small devices made it.
That blue model, I think I ended up getting off a kid at school. I can't remember how I got it. I think I swapped some stuff in return for the Discman. That was basically the currency back in high school. When none of us had jobs, we'd swap one item for another item. We did the old school barter system. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the first Discman I had, and then I got a later model later on and eventually went on to the CD-based one. Did I say Discman? I meant the Walkman, excuse me. See, I'm going to the 2000s now, or late 90s. Whatever.
Possible to take your favorite songs anywhere. Walkmans were lightweight and came with foam-covered headphones, which became a symbol of personal music enjoyment. They used cassette tapes that could hold up to 90 minutes of music, letting users make their playlists by recording songs from the radio or other tapes. Despite issues like needing new batteries and varying sound quality, the Walkman became hugely popular, influencing future portable music devices and modern streaming services.
Its advanced front-loading system is just amazing, and it even has remote control and beta scan. But the real genius of this Betamax is its price.
Betamax tapes were a video format created by Sony in 1975 that competed with VHS in the 1980s.
Yeah, I'm very curious to hear about the history of Betamax, because I honestly know nothing about it. Obviously, I've seen a few tapes back in my younger years, but that's all I know, because as far as I know, pretty much VHS had the whole market and Betamax failed. So this is going to be really interesting even for me.
They were the first successful home videotape format, allowing people to record TV shows and watch movies at home, changing how we enjoyed media.
Okay.
Richer quality than VHS, with a resolution of about 250 lines. However, the main downside was its shorter recording time, starting at just 1 hour, while VHS tapes could record up to 2 hours.
Well, there you go. Because most people, let's be honest, like obviously a TV program in sports is one thing, but if you want to see your favorite movie on TV and then record it, you're not going to get the whole thing in 60 minutes, are you? So yeah, that would be a big deal breaker.
This made VHS more popular with consumers who wanted to record longer content.
Yeah, exactly.
Betamax lost the battle to VHS despite better quality due to higher costs and time limitations. By the mid-1980s, VHS became the leading format, and Betamax eventually disappeared, with Sony stopping production in 2002.
Only in 2002?
A new era in photography begins. Polaroid introduces
Never saw a
sonar
Betamax
automatic
system
focusing.
anywhere near
This
that
camera
time.
sends out
In the 1980s, Polaroid cameras became a popular way to take photos and see them immediately. The first Polaroid camera, the Land Model 95, was introduced by Edwin H. Land in 1948.
You know, this is one of these cameras that have always come in and out of fashion, just kind of like other vintage things. For example, like yo-yos have come in and out of popularity over the years. Forgive me stumbling on my words. I remember like in the late 2000s, early 2010s, it was becoming a bit of a gimmick to own a Polaroid camera again. I actually bought one for someone for a gift. The downside for me, and I wonder if it'll be touched on, is the film was like really expensive. Like, I can't remember how much it costs, but you're looking at a lot of money just to get like 12 shots, I think it was. Fun time though. I mean, to capture your best memory, certainly worth it, especially if you want a bit more of a vintage look. Yeah, it doesn't really hold up today though.
And changed how people thought about photography. Unlike traditional film cameras, which needed film to be developed in a darkroom, Polaroid cameras allowed users to see their photos within minutes. These cameras used special film to produce the photo right after the picture was taken. The chemicals in the film reacted to light, creating an image in about 60 seconds. The design of Polaroid cameras, with their boxy shape and colorful rainbow stripe, became a well-known symbol of the 1980s, making photography easier and more enjoyable for everyone at parties, family events, and vacations.
We've still got so many photos.
Polaroid cameras redefined instant photography. But what about devices that brought efficiency to printing? Let's explore the era of dot matrix printers.
Dot matrix printers just don't fly anymore. After all, they're noisy.
I remember the dot matrix printers, at least from my memories, is they'd always be at school. So if you ever wanted to print out any of your projects or anything at school, you'd have these big printers where on the sides of the paper they'd have these like dots, and then you'd have to put them on the dots, and they'd kind of roll out of this big, I guess, what looked like a baking pin. But I could never get them connected properly, and I was always I don't know. It was a big mess for me using those things. I didn't have enough finesse. Let me know how you got on.
Dot matrix printers were common in the 1980s, and they were known for their loud noise and unique dot-based printing method. Unlike modern inkjet or laser printers, these printers used a print head that moved back and forth across the paper, striking an ink-soaked ribbon to create characters and images with tiny dots. Though their printing was not as smooth as today's methods, it was very effective. Introduced in the early 1970s, these printers became popular because they were affordable and efficient. The Centronics 101 was the first successful model, setting the standard. Businesses valued these printers' ability to print on multi-part forms, making them perfect for carbon copies.
I guess back
Despite
then
their
it was
noise,
fine.
dot matrix printers were durable and reliable, lasting many years.
They give total performance in every environment.
Probably would survive
cold,
a nuclear
heat, and
bomb.
grime. Available in all sizes. Maxell's RD series.
Floppy disks were commonly stored
Oh,
and
the
transferred
Maxell
data
disk.
before USB drives became popular. They were first introduced in the 1970s and gained popularity in the 1980s and 1990s. There were two main sizes, the 5.25-inch and the 3.5-inch discs.
Yeah, the 3.5-inch were the ones that got smaller, and they were they called floppy disks still, but they were like harder at that point, and I think they just had over a meg of data, where those bigger square ones had the 512K, I think it was. I mean, I'm going back a bit now. Didn't really use those Apple II big floppy ones so much. It was mainly like the 3.5s, I think, and I had a 1984 Macintosh specifically, and already by then it was using the 3.5s. Anyway, tell me your memories with the discs anyway.
The 5.25-inch floppy, introduced in 1906, was
Yeah.
flexible and could hold up to 1.2 megabytes of data.
Oh, it was 1.2.
It was widely used in early personal computers and word processors. The 3.5-inch floppy, introduced in 1982, had a more durable plastic case and could hold up to 1.44 megabytes of data, making it
okay.
more popular.
Sorry for misunderstanding. I don't know why I got that information wrong, but my mistake, guys, was looking back a long way.
These disks were used to share software, transfer files, and backup data. They were read and written by a floppy disk drive. Despite their popularity, floppy disks had a small storage capacity and could be damaged by dust or magnets.
Yeah, I found that they weren't very reliable, not even the 3.5 model. I mean, I'll admit, as a kid, I was pretty rough using them, but you always had to keep backup copies of your game, because I learned the hard way that if you use one of these discs too much, eventually it'll no longer be readable, and if you don't have a backup, even if you've bought a retail game, it's no longer usable. And I noticed I did ruin a lot of my old Mac games back in the day, and it was very frustrating because, kid, man, I was like, 6, 7, 8. I was sometimes too lazy to make backup.
By the late 1990s, they were replaced by CDs, DVDs, and USB drives, which offered better storage and reliability.
Here's how it looks for today.
Motorola has made it easier to stay directly in touch with those important to you.
Mom, we got a
Is that a beeper?
We'll page you.
Oh, pager, beeper, whatever you
Pagers,
call it.
also called beepers, were small devices that let people receive text messages before cell phones became common. They were invented in the 1940s and became popular in the 1980s and 1990s.
They were invented in the 1940s. I guess there would be some kind of, I suppose, if I had to guess, military technology that would allow something similar to be used. But to this day, I'm still fascinated how these things worked without cell coverage. Like, you went on a public phone or a home phone, and then you'd call a number which would link to the pager. But you could take the pager, and I'm just going to be very fascinated to hear how the technology worked, because I can't remember. But I do remember when I was about 2, 3 years old, again, my dad had one as well for business. And I was just so fascinated by it. I thought it was the most high-tech thing ever. But yeah, let's continue. Did you guys
People
own
would
one?
clip pagers to their belts or keep them in their pockets, and they would beep or vibrate when a message was received. Pagers work by receiving radio signals sent by a central transmitter. When someone wanted to reach you, they would call a pager number and leave a numeric or alphanumeric message. The pager would display the message on a small screen. Since pagers could only receive messages, users had to find a payphone or landline to reply, making them less convenient than modern communication
Sure.
methods.
Still impressive, though.
Oh, no.
Hello, honey. I'm home.
No, miss. No, don't go, miss. Don't go in.
CRT televisions, or cathode ray tube TVs, were large and heavy tube televisions common in many living rooms.
Yeah, correct. I think one thing kids would take for granted today is just how lightweight TVs are. Like, if you wanted to move a TV from room to room in the late 70s, early 80s, you basically had to be like Eddie Hall, if you get my drift. I had one of those ones that was also like furniture in the 70s. It was quite common to get one of those tube TVs that had like the inbuilt casing, you know, kind of like it was almost like a coffee table and a TV in one, or a shelf and a TV in one, because it'd get built inside a casing or its own unit, if that makes sense.
These TVs used a vacuum tube with electron guns to show pictures on a glowing screen. The technology behind CRTs started in the late 1800s, but became very popular in the middle of the 20th century. CRT TVs were known for their bright colors and dependable performance, which made them the center of home entertainment. They came in different sizes, but even the smaller ones were heavy compared to modern flat-screen TVs. The screens were curved, and the larger the TV, the deeper the tube.
Yeah, but you know, they started to get a little bit more flexible by the late 80s, as long as it wasn't too big. You know, I remember my grandmother had this awesome NEC Chrome tube TV, which I loved playing my NES on. And it wasn't that heavy, at least not from memory, but in hindsight, it also had a set of wheels and like its own trolley. So, I mean, that's probably why it wasn't heavy, because I was pushing it around everywhere.
As technology improved, CRTs were replaced by lighter, thinner, and more energy-efficient flat-screen TVs, like LCD and LED models. CRT TVs revolutionized home entertainment, but speaking of innovations, what toy became a must-have for kids in the 80s? Let's explore the rise of Speak and Spell.
So I had a modification or a modified version of Speak and Spell. Not this actual model, but I mean, when I go to friends' places to play or whatever, usually one in every few friends would have one of these things, and what mesmerized me about the units was the fun noises that they would make. I didn't actually use them for their proper functionality or anything. I may as well have been in the Fisher-Price section, you know what I mean?
Spelling with Texas Instruments Speak and Spell.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is correct. She's teaching her.
The Speak and Spell was an educational toy created to help children improve their spelling through interactive games. Introduced by Texas Instruments in 1978, it was among the earliest handheld electronic devices to feature a visual display and replaceable game cartridges. The toy used a TMC0 or 283 linear predictive coding speech synthesizer to pronounce words and phrases. Its bright orange design and simple keyboard made it appealing and easy for kids to use.
These are so clever back
The toy
then.
included spelling games like Mystery Word and Secret Code, encouraging children to spell correctly. It offered immediate responses, praising correct answers and gently motivating kids to try again when they made mistakes, creating a dynamic learning experience.
You know, my dad brought me this unit, I think, from New Zealand, which was similar to this, but it was like a math-based one. I think it was called a Math Pet. I think it was called. It was this red thing. And there was just so many, like, games you could play on it, like speed math and stuff. And, yeah, I didn't even realize I was learning at the time because I just found the whole thing fun. I almost feel manipulated looking back at it now.
Watch yourself fall, Silk Slinger! Gotta stop the bombs in time. If I don't get you web-head, my diagnosis will!
The Atari 2600 was a highly popular home gaming console in the 1980s. Released in 1977 by Atari Inc., it was initially called the Atari Video Computer System, before changing its name in 1982. This console was groundbreaking for its time, using interchangeable game cartridges, which was a big step forward compared to older systems with built-in games.
You know, the Atari looks very basic by today's standards, and you know what? It is. But it can't be understated what a revolutionary jump it was at the time, because for over a half a decade there, people were just getting, like, these Pong-style consoles. And, you know, even something like the Magnavox Odyssey was basically a glorified Pong console, which just had different overlays that essentially did exactly the same thing anyway. So when you finally got a system that was able to give you different experiences and games and things like that, it was a pretty big deal.
The Atari 2600 had an 8-bit microprocessor and 128 bytes of RAM. It came with 2 joystick controllers and a set of paddle controllers for different types of games. Iconic titles like Space Invaders, Pac-Man, and Pitfall
Okay, I got you on Space Invaders and Pitfall, but let's not talk about Pac-Man on the Atari 2600. That was one of the catalysts, along with E.T., for its colossal failure. People were sick and tired of having really shitty arcade ports, okay? So probably not... Don't use Pac-Man in a flattering way to promote what it was. It's probably not a good idea.
Became household names. Despite facing setbacks like the 1983 video game crash, the Atari 2600 remains an important part of gaming history.
Between ordinary stereo with 2 separate channels of sound and Panasonic ambient sound. Ambient sound.
These boomboxes.
Full-dimensional sound that's all around.
Ghetto blasters, also called boomboxes, were large portable cassette tape players with big speakers that became popular in the 1980s. These devices were iconic in hip-hop culture, as they were seen carried by teenagers in cities. Ghetto blasters were first introduced in the late 1970s, allowing people to take their music and enjoy loud sound and deep bass.
I think I remember that late 80s movie where the guy is going around with that ghetto blaster. I think it was in Do the Right Thing, that Spike Lee movie or whatever. But I mean, I used to own one, but I mean, I used to always, I remember, keep it connected to the power, because I think they either ran on C or D batteries. And I mean, you're probably going to get, what, a half an hour out of that, you know what I mean? Maybe I'm underselling it. But I don't remember the batteries lasting long on those things at all. It could have depended on the model or at the time period. I don't know. But I remember I mainly used it in power in the end.
The first boombox, the Norelco 22RL962, was made by Philips in 1966. In the 1980s, ghetto blasters gained widespread popularity. They featured AM/FM radio, 2 cassette decks for playing and recording music, and powerful speakers. Powered by batteries, they were portable, but their size and weight made them hard to carry around without effort.
When you get hold of the Nintendo Entertainment System, when you master Rob, the video robot.
The Zapper guns were light guns used for shooting games on the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES. Released in North America in 1985, the NES Zapper became a well-known accessory for the console. It allowed players to aim at the TV screen and shoot at targets in games, offering a more interactive gaming experience.
You know, I'm surprised that they didn't just mention the Nintendo in general. Maybe they still will later on, but they're just talking about the Zapper here. But I had a few cool games with it, and this is one technology that I actually miss. The good news is, with modern TVs, we're now finally getting light gun parables again. But for a good, decade and a half there, this is a forgotten technology, because these zappers weren't actually working with the LCD TVs. They only worked on the CRT machines. So this was a forgotten memory until recently, actually.
The original design of the Zapper resembled a revolver. Still, it was later redesigned to look like a futuristic ray gun with a bright orange color to make it different from real firearms.
It just had the plain gray one.
The Zapper detected light from the screen when the trigger was pulled. Popular games like Duck Hunt, Hogan's Alley, and Wild Gunman were some of the well-loved titles that used the Zapper.
Yeah, you're the first serious gamer I've seen all morning. Check this out. Brand new 16-bit Super Nintendo with Super Mario World. Wow!
The Sega Genesis, also called the Mega Drive outside North America, was a popular video game console that helped lead the 16-bit gaming era.
You're getting on a big technicality here, because I think the Sega Genesis released in 1988 in Japan and maybe early 89 in the United States. Around that era, I don't know the exact dates, but I know, even being conservative, there was probably only like a 1-year window where the Sega Genesis was around in the 80s, to be honest. And so this is a stretch, but hey, look, you know what? It still counts. I still love playing Sega games on the channel to this day. I'm not even mad it got a mention.
1988, and in North America in 1989, it was Sega's third console and the successor to the Master System. The Genesis quickly became known for its strong graphics, sound, and large collection of games.
Pictures from the Sega
It was
CD?
powered by a Motorola 68000 processor
and a
Z-Log Z80 sound controller, making gameplay smooth and vibrant audio. The console offered many games, from fast-paced action games like Sonic the Hedgehog to sports games like Madden NFL. Its success was helped by effective marketing, with the slogan, "Genesis does what Nintendo doesn't,"
Yeah, that was a great
emphasizing
quote.
its advantages over
Great
Nintendo.
slogan.
The Sega Genesis revolutionized gaming, but what about a fashion trend that brought glitter and color to the 80s?
Oh no.
Let's explore jelly shoes.
Oh, okay, I don't remember these. This is the first thing I don't remember. What the hell are these things?
$29.99.
They're uglier than Crocs, mate.
Jelly shoes, also called jellies,
They're horrible.
were colorful rubber sandals that became very popular in the 1980s. They were made from PVC plastic and were known for their bright colors and glittery designs.
I wonder if Molly Ringwald ever wore these in one of her movies. I don't know. I could just picture her wearing these shoes in Pretty in Pink with one of her dresses or something. I don't know. But I don't remember these specifically at school or anything like that. But they're ugly as fudge, bro.
The name jelly shoes came from their jelly-like look and feel. They were first created by the French company Jelly Shoes, started by Tony Alano and Nicolas Guillon in 1980. These shoes were lightweight, waterproof, and affordable, which made them a favorite among children and teenagers. They came in different styles, including sandals, flats, and boots. Jelly shoes were versatile, perfect for the beach, the pool, or casual everyday wear. Despite their simple design, they were seen as stylish and were popular with trendsetters and celebrities.
Oh. She really chooses. She's really freaky. I swear this was probably really popular around my neck of the woods, probably from 1987 to 1989. I know if I'd go hang out at a girl's house when I was like playing or whatever in the neighborhood, they seemed to always have the Cabbage Patch Kid dolls. Creepy looking fuckers. Never understood the craze or what it was that they actually did. But hey, it was a fad and one that I remember. Did you own one? Probably not.
Cabbage Patch Kids were cute and a little creepy, stuffed dolls with unique faces that became one of the most wanted toys of the 1980s. Created by Xavier Roberts in 1978, they were originally called Little People and sold at craft fairs. Each doll had its name and birth certificate, making them feel special and personalized. In 1982, Coleco took over the rights to make the dolls in large quantities and renamed them Cabbage Patch Kids. The dolls had soft bodies and plastic heads, known for their round faces and big eyes. They quickly became a cultural sensation, with parents rushing to buy them for their children. This led to huge demand and even store riots during the holiday season.
Nothing's changed there.
Clap off. Clap on, clap off. The clapper.
Let you turn things on or off from anywhere in the room.
The clapper was a sound-activated electrical switch introduced in 1984 by Joseph Enterprises Inc.
I mean, in Australia, if you meet someone that's a clapper, you got to make sure that you're not a fool and you wrap up your tool. And if you don't get that phrase, then we're just going to move on and you can check it on Google later.
And marketed by Joe Padot. It allowed users to clap their hands to control appliances like lamps and TVs. The device was plugged into a regular electrical outlet and could control up to 2 devices, each activated by a different clap pattern.
Oh, so that's how it works.
The clapper became famous for its catchy slogan, "Clap on, clap off, the clapper."
Yeah, I never actually saw this product, to be honest. I mean, sometimes you'd watch an 80s movie and, someone would be setting some, like, mood music, lighting some candles, and be doing these ones before his woman or date would come over to enjoy some Barry White or whatever. So I'd always see it in the movies, but I didn't actually realize it was a device like this, so I've learned something myself, even at 44.
Which was featured in TV commercials. It offered a convenient way for people to turn on lights or appliances without getting up from their seats. The device also had a security feature that turned on a light at any sound, helping to scare off potential intruders.
It's like a security light too.
Simon.
Oh, I remember these things. I never knew how to play them though, but I'd see the kids own them.
Simon was an electronic memory game that became very popular in the 1980s. It was created by Ralph H. Baer and Howard J. Morrison, and first released by Milton Bradley in 1978. The game had a round, colorful device with 4 large buttons that lit up and played different sounds. The goal was for players to repeat increasingly difficult sequences of lights and sounds. Inspired by an earlier Atari arcade game called Touch Me, Simon improved the original concept by using more pleasant sounds and a better design.
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. That actually sounds like a really fun electronic game. And if it was around today, it might be. I don't know. I would still play it. As I said, I used to always see it at the friends' houses and stuff. But we never used it. I don't know if it's because they ran out of batteries or what. But yeah, a real shame. I think I would have loved a lot of late nights on this thing.
The game became a big hit, especially around the holidays, and was a common item on children's wish lists. Its success was helped by a special launch event at Studio 54 in New York City.
Right, pay attention, Bond. This is the Sinclair ZX Spectrum Plus 2. It's a fully operational...
The ZX Spectrum was a popular 8-bit home computer that Batija became well known in the 1980s. Created by Sinclair Research and released in the United Kingdom on April 23, 1982, it was designed by Sir Clive Sinclair. The Spectrum was praised for its small size, rubber keyboard, and colorful graphics, greatly improving over its predecessor, the ZX81.
Now, I never had the ZX Spectrum, but I did have the Commodore 64, and I remember playing cartridge games was fine. I mean, it didn't take too long to load, and there was a lot of amazing cartridge games. And whenever you had to use the cassette player to load a game, my gosh, sometimes you'd have to order your dinner, eat your dinner before the game was even ready. And then there was, if you'd never played the game before, you're loading it for 45 minutes only to load a piece of crap and then having to load a whole different game all over again. So you weren't playing roulette with your time on the old thing. I don't know if the load times were quicker on the ZX Spectrum. I certainly hope so.
It featured a Z80A processor running at 3.5 MHz and had models with 16 kilobytes or 48 kilobytes of memory. The computer is connected to a television for display, and audio cassette tapes are used to load and save programs. The ZX Spectrum's low cost and versatility made it a favorite among families and enthusiasts, playing a major role in the growth of home computing and video games. The ZX Spectrum revolutionized home computing, but what other 1980s gadget combined style and function like never before? Let's explore.
Bird cards for Casio. Would you rather have a calculator or a watch? With a Casio calculator watch, you have both.
The Casio calculator watch was a popular gadget in the 1980s, combining a digital watch with a built-in calculator. Released by Casio in 1980, these watches became famous for their practicality and futuristic look. The watch had a small keypad on the face, allowing users to do basic math like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. One of the most well-known models was the Casio Databank series.
I don't know which one I had, and I don't even know if it was a Casio or a knockoff brand, but I remember my grandmother got me a calculator watch, I think when I was 7 or 8, and I did have it for a fair while. Still to this day, don't remember what happened to it, actually. But, yeah, if only I realized what significance would it have on today's modern age since they're no longer around anymore, I would have taken better care of it and kept it. But, at least I had one. It was a great memory.
It included a calculator and featured a calendar, alarm, and phone book. Its stylish design and multiple functions made it a favorite among students, professionals, and technology lovers. The calculator watch was especially useful for quick calculations while on the go, making it an essential tool for everyday tasks.
Only possible. All the power and excitement of Nintendo right in the palm of your hand. Introducing Game Boy. It's portable. It's in stereo.
The Game Boy was a groundbreaking portable video game console introduced by Nintendo in 1989. Designed by Gunpei Yokoi, it became a cultural symbol of the 1990s. The Game Boy featured an 8-bit processor and a monochrome screen that displayed games in 4 shades of gray.
You know what? I know the Game Boy had a monochrome screen, and you also had the Game Gear with a color and the Atari Lynx with color, but they would chew through batteries like a sunbish, and they weren't always reliable. The Game Boy was lightweight, it was reliable, the battery's life was fair enough, and the games are actually pretty good for their time, including the sound. I mean, classics like Tetris, Mario Land, things like that. Even Turtles, Fall of the Foot Clan. I know these aren't significant titles now, but back then they were perfectly fine and acceptable for the time period. It just goes to show that, like, it was ahead of its time, because Nintendo, about a decade after this, brought out the Game Boy Color, and the games are no better. They were just in color. And so Nintendo didn't really have the next big handheld leap until the Game Boy Advance in the early 2000s. So this thing just absolutely pumped, man. It was really ahead of its time. And if you brought one to school, you're automatically the cool kid, at least in Aussie, seriously.
Despite its basic graphics, the console gained immense popularity due to its affordable price, long-lasting battery, and various games. A standout feature of the Game Boy was its ability to use interchangeable cartridges, which made switching games easy. When it launched, it included the popular puzzle game Tetris, which helped the console succeed.
Has access to over 1 million words, all stored in its microchip memory. That's enough words to fill one side of over 4,000 sheets of fully printed A4 paper.
Digital dictionaries, also known as electronic dictionaries, gained popularity in the 1980s as technology advanced. These devices let users quickly look up words and their meanings without needing a large book. Early digital dictionaries were small handheld gadgets with screens and keyboards, similar to tiny laptops. They gave instant access to various information, such as definitions, synonyms, and translations. One of the first was the Seiko Electronic Dictionary, introduced in the early 1980s. It had a simple design and limited vocabulary, but it was a groundbreaking product. As technology progressed, companies like Casio and Sharp created more advanced models with bigger word lists and features like pronunciation help and grammar advice.
You know, we take for granted the fact that we all have smartphones in our pocket now, which run probably, I'm going to guess, close to probably a dozen of the items that are on this list from the convenience of your hand. I mean, I'm just spitballing. I don't know how many items we've seen so far, but it'll be a good chunk that you can, you know, things like the calculator, the dictionary, and what have you. You know, photos, you don't need Polaroids anymore. Photos, just to prove my point in some things. You know, spelling games, for example. But at the time period that these devices came out, absolutely revolutionary. And yeah, that is definitely something, like this video said, that Generation Z's not going to understand.
These dictionaries were popular with students and travelers, but eventually lost out to software applications and online dictionaries that offered even more features.
If you want to do well in school, you have to keep up with current events.
Express it, the locker answering machine.
Answering machines were important household items in the 1980s because they allowed people to receive messages when they couldn't pick up the phone. While the idea started in the early 20th century, it wasn't until the 1970s and 1980s that they became affordable and widely available.
You know, we all have voicemail now, which works exactly the same way, but it's more the social aspect that's very, very different now to me. Because in the 80s, we're a lot more social. People got excited to use the phone, talk to their friends, leave a message on the answering machine. You would actually come home and be depressed if you didn't have any messages on your answering machine. You wanted to have 4 or 5 because you wanted to feel like you were popular with your family and friends and that they missed you. Now, if people get called up on the phone, it's probably government, some debt collector, or somebody coming after you. And so people just get freaked out whenever someone leaves a voice message now. Oh, how times have changed.
These machines used magnetic tape to record messages, which could be later played. The first popular answering machine, called the electronic secretary, was introduced in 1949. By the 1980s, machines like the PhoneMate 400, which could store up to 20 messages, became well known. These devices had a speaker, a microphone for recording messages, and a tape deck for storing incoming messages. Some models allowed users to change their greetings and even check messages remotely from another phone.
Make a healthy treat with the Presto Pop Light Hot Air Corn Popper. It pops with
These
hot
not
air,
come out until the
not oil,
80s.
for a low-fat treat.
Air poppers became a popular kitchen tool in the 1980s, changing how people made popcorn at home. These devices, introduced in the late 1970s, used hot air to pop the kernels without needing oil, making popcorn a healthier snack.
Yeah, now you can do it in the microwave in those bags and just do it instantly in like, what, 2 or 3 minutes? It's not quite the same though. I just feel like it always comes out of those bags tasting bland, sometimes a little bit burnt at the bottom. I always found when you used to use the kernels in these machines, it always come out in a better quality and then you could butter it up as you liked and whatnot. I don't know if these machines exist anymore, to be honest. I haven't looked for a very long time. Let me know if you have one.
The Presto popcorn pumper, released in 1978, was one of the first air poppers sold. The air popper worked by blowing hot air through the kernels, causing them to pop and shoot fluffy popcorn into a bowl. This method was quicker, easier, and healthier than oil on a stovetop. Air poppers quickly became a favorite in many households, especially for family movie nights.
So
they offered a simple and more nutritious alternative to traditional popcorn making methods. Air poppers revolutionized snack time, but what other 1980s device transformed home entertainment forever? Let's explore the rise of cable boxes. Cable boxes became an essential part of television in the 1980s, changing how people accessed entertainment.
Yeah, you guys in the United States were way ahead of the ball on cable compared to us. You got cable for the first time in like 1984, didn't you guys? Well, I don't think it came to Australia until like 94, 95, and I think our home actually got it at the start of 96. So it was all very new to me when I was a teenager. You guys are lucky that you had more channels when you were a kid. In Australia, we had about 4 or 5 channels, but one was ABC and the other was SBS. And, you know, the kids didn't really like those channels apart from the odd cartoon here and there, so we really had 7, 9, and 10. And yes, boring times, may I say. So that's probably why we played outside, come to think of it.
First introduced in the 1970s, these devices expanded channel options beyond the few available on broadcast TV. By decoding cable signals, they allowed users to watch various specialized channels, including sports, movies, and news. Early models were large and typically placed on top of the television. They featured dials or buttons for channel selection. Some even included a wired remote control. The arrival of cable boxes marked a major change in home entertainment, giving viewers more choices and the ability to explore programming tailored to their interests, paving the way for a new era of television.
Put the letter in here, and the letter goes round and round. Whoa, and it comes out here.
In the 1980s, fax machines became essential tools for homes and offices, allowing people to send and receive documents through telephone.
I mean, very soon after the fax machine, you know, the mobile phones, text messages, emails, things like that made this completely obsolete. Funnily enough, apparently some companies and businesses still use faxes to this day. Why? But I digress.
The technology behind faxing dates back to 1843, when Scottish inventor Alexander Bain created the first device to transmit images. By the 1970s and 1980s, fax machines were widely used in businesses and homes. A fax machine scans a document and converts it into electrical signals, which travel through phone lines to another fax machine.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming in. Which of these items do you remember and what other ones do you think should have been on the list? And we'll see you on the next video, guys. Appreciate ya.